Tori and Sans quickly realize that they already know each other, since they share the same love for puns as each other. This love for puns and realization that Sans is the guy behind the door and Tori is the woman behind the door lightens the mood and lowers the tension that was just seconds before about to boil over. Meanwhile, Chara has managed to convince Toriel to escort them all the way to Gasgore, ensuring that they won't have to face him alone. Once again, Chara was able to alter the timeline once again. As they prepare for the journey, Papyrus arrived, having forgotten to mention something. However, Toriel soon recognized that this was Sans' brothers, and they start making puns, which of course Papyrus started hating. After a brief stop at Papyrus' house, where more puns were exchanged, they continue their journey, eventually arriving at Grillby's, where Papyrus notes that Sans wants to get closer to Toriel, maybe even into the friend zone with them. Sans is a bit embarrassed by this, but tells Papyrus something, that he should never be left alone with the human. Anyways, suddenly a spear crashes through the window, and it turns out that this was Undyne's spear, while she screams out the word shit out, since she hoped that she didn't kill anyone with her spear. This of course was marked by Sans as one strike. Anyways, Undyne is maybe a little bit scared of Sans. Who am I kidding? Extremely scared of Sans, but her fear turns into excitement and determination after seeing a human child. And Undyne is ready to take this human child, either by force or by killing them right here, right now, to gather the soul and bring it to Asgore. However, Undyne didn't include Toriel into her equation, since Toriel starts to defend the human with her fire magic. Undyne claims that this is the 7th human, the last human they need to break the barrier, which of course results into a breakdown on Toriel's side, since once again Monsterkind completely forgot that Frisk is the 8th human and ignored Chara's existence. Something you shouldn't do in front of Toriel, considering that she was the mother of this child. Toriel firmly states that if Asgore wants the child's soul, he will have to come and take it himself. Reluctantly, Undyne chooses not to fight Toriel directly, since she's still the queen of the underground, and instead decides to fetch Asgore. But before Undyne could leave, Papyrus challenged her to a friendly competition in an attempt to make everyone in this room bloody best friends forever and to lift this rather depressing mood. This competition is who can lift a boulder. First, Papyrus instructs Sans to lift a boulder. Sans is able to lift a boulder if he would use his blue magic, but given Sans' lazy nature and attitude and funny nature, he doesn't even attempt to lift the boulder. Then Papyrus asks Undyne to do the same, which she eagerly accepts and lifts the boulder with her 2 hands, but is struggling quite a bit. But to everyone's surprise, Toriel, who is, it has to be noted, a powerful boss monster, effortlessly lifts the boulder with 1 hand. During this distraction, Sans quietly pulls Undyne aside and asks her for a favor, to never let the human out of sight, especially alone with Papyrus. Undyne agrees with that and assures Sans that she will keep an eye out human. Sans thanks Undyne and goes inside his house to take a nap, but in reality, this nap would allow him to get in contact with this deformed Sans in the load screen. When both Sans meet each other in the save screen, this deformed Sans tells Sans what happened afterward after getting to the save screen and was about to reset. This glitched Sans attempted to reset the world and realized that nothing happened. Instead, he discovered that when Frisk reloaded the last save point, right before the battle in the Judgement Hall, his own determination allowed him to remember every single reset and every single time the human load. This means that Sans remembered every single step the human does and could counter the human over and over again. But we are facing a human who is determined enough to reset the world over and over again. And so, after 536 failed attempt of killing Sans, the human, in this case Chara, finally achieved their goal and slicing Sans up. As Sans was reduced to dust, he snapped his finger and vanished. But thanks to his injected determination, he accidentally teleported himself himself into the safe screen, where he is now stranded, since he can't leave the safe screen, because if he would leave the safe screen, he would die from his wounds from the last Genocide Run. This of course brings up the question, how is he even still alive? This deformed Sans tells us that he is still alive because of the fact that the safe screen gathered all the information about Sans and retains his body here in the safe screen. But if he would leave it, he would die. But since he is now trapped in the safe screen, Sans wouldn't exist in the normal Undertale timeline anymore. So this deformed Sans split his soul into tiny pieces and created a Sans on his own. This created Sans is our normal Sans. But since he is a creation from just a single part of his soul, he sometimes feels like he's missing something, sometimes feels like his behavior is odd or has missing memories, which results into him being his own person and also being unfinished. Unlike many stories where now the main character must have a mental breakdown, Sans takes it with, okay, that's actually pretty weird, but could you please tell me what your name is? Which the deformed Sans answered with a name that our normal Sans wouldn't have guessed. This deformed Sans calls himself Geno Sans, since he feels like he deserves this name after he let everyone he cared died. Seeing this, Sans asked one question to Geno Sans. Buddy, are you like alright? I mean, the wound, your eye glitch, looks like worse than the scar. Doesn't it hurt? I mean, do you need something to talk to or anything about that? With Geno Sans stopping Sans from continuing talking on. He accepted already that he is going to die and never leaving the safe screen and will be forgotten by time itself. His only goal is for Papyrus to never have to suffer again. And if this Sans is willing to help, he will help this Sans to achieve his goal. Or Sans now continues his journey in the safe screen and confronts this Frisk in the safe screen and starts talking to them by asking the difficult question. This being, was Chara the only one who killed people over and over again? Frisk didn't answer the question, but instead told their story from their perspective. They told Sans that Chara was the first person they ever spoke and saw upon reaching the underground. When Frisk discovered they had the power to reset and load, they used it extensively to replay the perfect ending over and over again, this being the pacifist ending. But eventually, seeing the perfect ending over and over again became boring. And when it became boring, Chara suggested an idea. Hey, why don't we kill everyone this time? It's not like we can't just erase the damage we do later. Why don't we try something new? No killer Sans. Why don't we see what would happen if we kill everyone? At first, Frisk killed a couple of monsters and resetted from the guild. But then they did it over and over again, until the only monster that was left was Sans. At the first time of many, it took Chara and Frisk 536 times to kill them, but in the end they still succeeded. But this was only the first of many times they killed Sans. The first time was, as you may know, the longest time it took to defeat him. But Frisk noticed that Chara wanted to do something drastic after killing Sans. And before this could happen, Frisk resets the timeline, since they noted that Chara wanted deep down to hurt everyone extremely. But after 100 lifetimes or 1000 lifetimes, Frisk isn't sure of how long it took, they once again reached the point where they killed Sans for 1,000,000 times or whatever, how much they did it. And Chara's influence was so strong that they eventually killed Asgore and Flowey, and at the end Chara took over the body of Frisk. And when that happened, Frisk was ejected from their body and landed in the safe screen, where they were confronted by Geno Sans, and they knew immediately they're fucked up. They begged to spare him, and even though Frisk knew he wouldn't listen, Geno Sans stopped his barrage of attack, then kneeled down to them and said to them, "Hey kiddo, why don't we just forget all this, okay? Come here, pal." I'm real tired of all this fighting, aren't you? Since then, after Frisk took Geno Sans, he was nothing but kind to them. He lets them play with the Gaster Blaster and makes sure they're never lonely. This kindness Frisk never expected from Geno Sans, since in their eyes they didn't deserve this kindness. Oh, by the way, what I completely forgot to mention, Geno Sans was the first Sans they killed. This is an important thing, since this means all the other times they killed Sans, it was original Sans, not Geno Sans they killed. Since Geno Sans, after injecting himself with determination, could remember every time the human loaded, or normal Sans couldn't do that. Geno Sans' plan is, according to Frisk, to trap Chara inside the safe stream, believing it to be the only way to undo the damage. However, Frisk warns Sans not to follow through with his plan, explaining that this is exactly what Geno wants and that it will not end the way he hopes. Just then, Geno senses something happening in the real world and panics. Without hesitation, he forces Sans back into reality, warning that it has to do something with Papyrus. After sending all OG Sans into the real world, Geno Sans and Frisk are once again alone, and Geno asks Frisk what they told OG Sans, and Frisk tells them enough, which of course enrages Geno Sans, and they call Frisk a dirty little traitor and traps them with his blue magic. Sans wakes up from his slumber and noticed a literal war going outside his home. Magic attacks and spears are fired and clashed. Undyne and Toriel are locked in a standoff. Undyne shouts in a fury, claiming that the human tries to stab Toriel and is a danger, while Toriel claims that this was nothing more than an accident and that the human didn't deserve to be hurt. Sans finds out that the human continues their journey throughout Waterfall and Papyrus followed them. Realizing the danger, Sans immediately teleports past Toriel, racing towards Waterfall as fast as he can in an attempt to save Papyrus, but he doesn't make it in time. Waiting for him is Chara, who smugly taunts Sans, revealing in his failure to protect his brother, they took their time and killed Papyrus and took Papyrus' scarf. Even when he has some of his memory intact, he isn't able to save Papyrus. Sans for once chooses a different approach. Instead of blasting Chara with Gaster Blaster, chooses the approach of, instead of talking to Chara, he tries talking to them, hoping to learn more about his enemy and their goals, of why they are doing all this. But the only answer Sans could get was, when you love someone, you hurt them, and they hurt you. This is how the world works. Loving your brother will cause you more pain than anything else in the world. You see, it just always hurts. We do know that Chara is a damaged child, but before we could get any other answer, Toriel approaches, and Sans realizes that this timeline needs to be resetted, and that means Chara must die, but not with them wearing Papyrus' scarf. So he takes off Papyrus' scarf and blasts Chara with Gaster Blasters, ending the 4th chapter of Aftertale. This was a long chapter, but a good chapter. Read the comic for yourself while I'll be reading Game of Thrones.